Episode 142, Social Media Decoded with Carlin Ankrum.
Welcome to the PR Playbook Podcast, the only podcast giving you actionable skills and advice you need to execute a strategic PR program. Warning: what you hear next may lead to brand awareness and increased sales and customer exposure. Now here's your host, Rinjini Joshua.
Hello and welcome to episode 142. Yes, we're up there. Today we're going to talk about Social Media Decoded with Carlin Ankrum, the founder and lead strategist of OSnap Social. Hi, Carlin. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. I love that extra little snapperoni you
The
did.
little
That's
snap.
fun.
Yeah, I just it came to me while I was talking.
Love it.
Um, so I would love to do before we get started, talk about social media and kind of all the pitfalls and challenges and exciting opportunities. Hear a little bit about your background and a little bit about OSnap, what you guys do over there.
Absolutely. I've been in the social media space for, oh my goodness, 12 to 15 years, somewhere around there. And I have a journalism background, so I've always been into telling stories and, really sharing what makes people take some sort of action, whether it's to learn more or to buy from you, etc. And what we do at OSnap Social, we are a social media agency, but we know enough about how all the digital dots connect together to be a little bit dangerous. And, we know a lot about the digital landscape and how it's ever changing and evolving. So we walk everyone through our signature framework, which is the Fan Fire Starter framework. Don't ask me to say that 5 times fast. I just say, I have a thing for alliteration. I cannot help it.
Me too. I love it. I
It's
love
that
it.
geek. It's that geek in me that's showing. I'm like, ah. And we really focus on understanding where your numbers are right now. Like, where are you sitting currently with your social? Because that ultimately leads into the strategy and creating a strategy with goals tailored to not just your social, but your overarching marketing objectives. Because social media is just a sliver of your overarching marketing objectives. Then we layer it into an advancement strategy. So whether we are implementing it for you, working with you to get the content done and delivered, or you want to kind of DIY it, that's a great option for solopreneurs specifically, or book authors, where you are the face, quite literally, of your brand, where we can kind of come in as a consultant for you to help organize the content, make sure you're consistent, and just so you don't overthink it. Because I think we all overthink social media. It's supposed to be fun, and I think we forget that often.
Yeah, I mean, I even forget, like, sometimes I won't post for a very, very long time, and then I think, like, "Well, why haven't I posted anything? Okay, let me think of something." And then when I start thinking, I go down a rabbit hole of, like, "Okay, it's gotta be perfect." Like, every word has gotta be perfect. Actually, and then the next day rolls around and I never posted. So
Yeah. I mean, and that is totally, that is everyone, myself included. And I think
yeah.
if you have a short video on your phone right now that's 7 to 12 seconds, put something like valuable over top of it with music and press post. And when I say something valuable, I know that's relative and it depends on
Yeah.
your industry, but if there's like a tip or a frequently asked question that you're tired of getting and you just want to answer it once and for all, put it out there, answer the question, get people involved, because if some people are coming to you asking that question over and over again, the masses probably needs to know too. So
So
start there.
when you say put it out there, where exactly is there for you? And I have a lot of questions, but since we're talking about this now, where is there? What's the go-to?
For me, I know that I convert on LinkedIn. People are on LinkedIn. Service-based businesses are on LinkedIn looking for other service-based businesses. That being said, there's also a sliver there that is for that business to consumer side of the market that I think is underutilized. And people are like, "Oh, I'm a product based. Like, why would I hang out on LinkedIn?" Well, a few reasons, right? Like venture capital could be there, or
Yeah, yeah.
the next the biggest influencer in the real estate market could be hanging out over there. You just don't know until you really dive into the audiences. I hang out on LinkedIn because that's where business is done and that's where I've actually converted people. The other side is Instagram. I love Instagram just because it's fun. I get to be a little bit quirky over there, though I would say LinkedIn is, loosening the necktie a little bit, which
I
I
like
love.
the way it is though, because I just, if it gets too casual, then ruins the effect of like knowing that that's a professional place.
Well, and it's funny that you mentioned that because I actually just did a poll on LinkedIn.
Uh-huh.
See if I can, and it just closed like a few hours before we recorded. And I will share with you the data because why not? We're talking about it. So I said, what's relevant content, with the trends being what they are, and people are saying, oh, LinkedIn's becoming more of a, like the others, so to
Yeah.
speak. And I said, how comfortable are you sharing behind the scenes of your life here on LinkedIn? That was my poll question. And the three
Mhm.
options were, I'm all for it. This isn't the place for that. And then business behind the scenes content only. So people that were all for it, it wasn't a ton of votes, 35 votes. It's, not bad. Business behind the scenes content only, 39% of
Yeah.
the vote. Pretty an even split. It was like
Oh, you
27%,
said
30.
39. Yeah. So that's not, yeah, not big.
There wasn't
Everyone
like
has
a big winner, but some people were saying like, I'm open to it, but like, I don't want it to be the main thing that I'm seeing, or I'm open
right.
to it, but like, I don't want people's like families and kids and things like that to be on there.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
there's
I
a
really
balance.
struggle with that. Yeah, I really struggle with that too because sometimes, obviously everybody's work life spills into their profession. I mean, sorry, their home life spills into their professional life. And there's that dynamic of you kind of want people knowing what's going on just in case something is off. And I don't know. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's
I
very
think we all
sensitive topic.
expect like a level of transparency, especially when it
Too
comes
much.
to our personal brand, I
Yeah,
think to your point too, a little too much.
too
Of
much.
that.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
let's transition a little bit because I kind of threw you off. I love doing this.
Yeah. I
Um,
love it.
all right, so we're talking about social media decoded, and I really wanted to kind of first hit on. Let's talk about the why of social media. Why are we doing social media, especially when it comes to startups, small businesses, entrepreneurs? We just offline spoke about budget cuts and marketing and things like and public relations and how those are really the first things always to go when your budget gets tight. But I think there's a valid I mean, of course, I'm a PR person. I think there's a valid reason in keeping your presence visible during a recession or any kind of downturn. Same, I think, probably goes with social media. So, can you give us like just a why on the business side of social media of why companies or brands should be there and if they should at all? Like maybe not everyone, maybe it's not for everyone.
So I think the best way to describe social media as we sit here today, could all change tomorrow, is it is a free tool where your audience already exists and is already actively on. I think that is a missed opportunity.
Mhm.
And I want to bring it back to even Google. When someone Googles your company, the top search results are probably your homepage if you have one, of course, and
Right.
then followed by social media channels. And a lot of people are following, window shopping, I kind of call it, on social to see if you're legit, if you're real, if you're a human. They are looking, and that's the part where I think as business owners, they miss the point. It is a free tool right now that you can leverage. Like if you think about it, the yellow pages, you had to pay to be in the yellow pages. And that was just happenstance if someone flipped to your page 1025,
Yeah.
or a 5,000 page thing. And now we use them as paperweights or step stools, to reach high shelves in our kitchen. Like that's what and I think now it's, an inch thick versus the five
Wow.
inch thick
Yeah.
like it used to be. So it is a free place. I mean, I just want to like reframe the mindset of how cool is it that if you were to post on social media, your people could find you instantly and take an action. And that's why people get so wrapped up in, I only have 30 views on this, reel or this TikTok. I'm like, and this was a trending sound for a while, but I bring it up all the time. If 30 people walked into my office right now to look at what I'm doing, I would be one, totally freaked out, and two, overwhelmed in the best, but also maybe the worst way.
Yeah, yeah, because you
you
have
know,
to help them all.
and like, so I just think people miss the point is like, I'm not getting any reach. Well, what is any compared to what?
Yeah.
Compared to what? So if you're comparing yourself, and that's another dangerous slippery slope that we can cover, but comparison is the worst. You can't
You
compare.
should be comparing yourself to yourself, I think,
Yeah,
right?
it's you
If
versus
anything.
you all day. Because
Yeah.
it's if you're comparing yourself to someone, another business owner's chapter 13 and you're on chapter 1, that's not a fair comparison because they've put in the work longer than you have,
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
know? So,
Well, so you were talking about, 30 people walking in your office.
yeah.
So when you're creating a post, does that mean every post should have a call to action?
Yes, I think so, and it can be 2 different types of calls to action. It can be I call them, like, external versus internal. So, external
Mhm.
calls to action take you outside of the platform. Now, we have to keep in mind those pieces of content might not get as much, you know, eyeballs on it because, let's face it, Facebook, Instagram, all the platforms, they want you to stay right where you are. They don't want you leaving.
Right,
They
you're there
don't
to
want
scroll. You're just
yeah, you're
scrolling.
there to scroll and then there to view the ads of which they get paid for you to view, right? So you just have to keep that in mind. But then there's also opportunities for engagement on the platform itself and having a call to action that leads to social engagement can help also from your brand awareness and eventually people can convert. So it's also understanding where is your audience on the buyer's journey? Are they just finding out who you are? Are they looking or seeking, your service, or are they ready to do something about it and buy? Like their pain point is like painful enough that they're ready to
Well,
take
if
that
we're on
step.
Instagram, let's just use ourselves as an example. Where
Love
I
it.
would put you and I in the same category, right?
Yes.
Vendor services. If they're on Instagram and they see a post, they're not really necessarily looking to buy. They're looking to maybe educate themselves, entertain themselves a little
Yeah.
bit, right? But maybe on LinkedIn, that I don't even think on LinkedIn, if they're scrolling through their feed, it's usually just like, okay, what's going on in the industry?
Yes. And so, and it's funny because I was just on a Google Ads training yesterday and they put like Google versus like social in a very
Yeah.
different light. And I loved the juxtaposition of social media. When you're putting ads there, you're putting content there, you are a pattern disruptor. So
Interesting.
you are there disrupting someone's regularly scrolling
Yeah.
program with
Right.
your information. Google, you are active, like they are taking an action. They are searching for something specific and you come
Right.
up as a result, and then they have to make a decision whether or not they're going to click on your link. Versus social, where we're kind of like fishing, we're
Forcing it
throwing
down
the
there.
pole out there and waiting for a fish to bite versus like reeling the fish in because the fish is already there. You know what I mean? I don't know if that's like
Yeah.
if that analogy lands, but it was
I
really
know
interesting.
what you mean. Yeah.
I know.
No, but that's a really good point, and that's something people really don't always understand about digital marketing versus social media versus public relations versus marketing. Like, all of those 4 fields, very different in their approach, probably have a different role, like you're saying. I like that. Really like that. We should create a graphic like
Yeah, I know.
I like these conversations for that
Yeah.
reason too. So I have a bunch of questions, and I think we're gonna have to do a second episode because I just don't think we're gonna cover everything. And now my brain has gone into 5 different places.
Welcome to
So
my brain.
yeah, so we're gonna decode some stuff and not all stuff. I'm gonna decode what's top of mind for me, and then we'll decode like kind of all the basics, maybe in a different conversation. One question that came up for me is I don't know which one I wanna ask first. Okay, I'm gonna ask about templates. How do you feel about this thing? Because we were talking about scrolling and you go down and you see and you're saying, "Hey, put a don't overthink it. Put a piece of content out there, put valuable content." And I see all these posts that say, "Hey, use this template and put valuable content over it." How do you feel about those templates? What kind of role do they play? Are they really useful? Should people who are entrepreneurs or and like just can't get a post out, should they use these templates?
So I'm a template fan, but here's my caveat. You have to rebrand them. Like you can't just buy a template or you can't just use a Canva template as is. You have
I'm talking
to
about the Instagram you know how, like, on Instagram, the template comes up,
For the
And
reel?
yeah, and it says like
Oh,
use this template.
yeah. If you want to use
Yeah.
it, use it. If it makes your life easier, do it.
Yeah.
Don't force but at the same time, don't force a square peg in a round hole either. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it takes some editing, it takes some storytelling for a good reel, even if you're using a template. So just keep that in mind. I say go for it, use it, try it, see if it works. It's a heck of a lot easier than sitting there racking your brain for
Thinking about
two
that thing.
hours. 2 hours, like getting it just right to go with the song or whatever. And that's why
Yeah.
I often tell clients just like do a talking head reel. Like just
Right.
pull your phone up and talk to it. Give it one tip and put that out there. You don't need to do anything fancy. You can use the caption sticker that's included inside Instagram, and then you're done. There's
What do you
nothing
think
extra.
about what are your thoughts about trending audio?
Trending audio is tricky from a legal standpoint. I always get questions around that, and then I always say, "I'm not a lawyer. You should ask your lawyer." But
Oh no.
like
Oh no.
oh, should for my business should I use all of these copyrighted things and da, da, da. I'm like, if you don't feel comfortable, don't. But at the same time, everyone else is doing it, so if that happens, and everyone's getting
In
sued.
trouble.
Like, you know, like, and so I always say trending audio is great if it feels authentic to you. And that's the biggest piece because I had a client who tried to force herself into doing lip syncs and trends and it came off terribly. And then when she shifted into doing the talking head where she just was sharing her expertise, it lit up her feed. And so you
Wow.
just find what works for you. And just because someone over there is doing trending audios or lip syncs or weird dancing or pointing or whatever doesn't mean that's
I've
for
always
you.
wanted to do the pointing. I love the
I s-
pointing.
that's how I
Love
started. I was like,
that.
listen, I don't know what's happening here, but like this is like, doing that little disco move. That seems
Yeah.
easy enough for me. And I teach dance part time. I love dancing. And so sometimes dancing is part of my feed. Is it for
Yeah.
everybody? No, no, it is not.
I this kind of reminds me of I don't know, you probably your daughter's probably too young. I reminds me of Wreck-It Ralph. So in the movie Wreck-It Ralph, there's the second one.
Yep.
He tries all the trending stuff on YouTube and he just
Yep.
does it all. I loved it so much. Well, and also I love Bob Ross. So he did like Bob Ross. He did like
Amazing.
yeah, he did like all the funny like he'll do a dance and then he like did an exploding like kitten thing and he just like he all the trending videos he like copied them to get trending.
Amazing. Yeah. I
It's
mean,
such a, like it is such a, like, testament to, like, the digital landscape, and, like, it was so witty and good how whoever wrote that part of that movie, all these animated films are, like, so much funnier than they used to be, but
yeah,
it was so, like,
adult
on
humor.
point, and I actually thought of that one day, I was like, "Maybe I should just find all the trending things and just copy them and do them and put them on my YouTube channel, see what happens."
Well, yeah, I mean, and I think there is something to be said where you find a trending audio and then adapt it so it resonates with your audience because that works really well. But the challenge of that is finding the trending sound and audio before it gets super trending, if that makes sense. Like be an
I think I
early
did one with,
adopter.
like, Show Me the Money. I think I did something like the Jerry Maguire, and that works. So I think, yeah, you have to find one that, like, is authentic, like you were mentioning before,
Yes.
authentic to what you're actually presenting. And, like, it was something about, like, the press releases, like, something along those lines. But anyways,
Yes.
yeah, I mean, it is a lot of trial and error, and I think that's the one thing that entrepreneurs and founders and business owners, they don't have time for that trial and error. And then they're like, "Well, is it worth hiring somebody?" And so this is like conundrum, right? Like it's like that person's gonna try and like trial and error. I just want them to do it. I don't want them to try stuff. And I think that's the problem with social media. It's so experimental. There's no exact
Mhm.
formula. And it's
Yep.
because it has to do with people's emotions and feelings and, I'd love for you to talk about what you mentioned earlier about the biggest challenges people have in kind of adopting social media. And you're mentioning like the ROI versus emotional connection and how to kind of build that loyalty and that following. Like, how do you measure the return on social media? How long does that take to to happen?
Yeah, I always tell people social media is a long-term game. And when I work with clients, it's a minimum commitment of 6 months minimum. It just takes time, it takes consistency, and it does take a little bit of trial and error because you're right. Not every, it's not like if you do one, if you have a client that's, I don't know, in landscaping, doesn't mean that every landscaping company operates the same, has the same clientele, has the same services, has the same personality, and resonates with the same people. Because to your point, there's the emotional piece involved. And I think as business owners, we want to just get it right the first time. And with my knowledge and my team's knowledge, we have the shorter track to get there because
Sure.
we've trialed and errored and failed and all of that because we've learned. And we
Yeah.
are keeping up with the algorithms that are also changing and evolving and are valuing specific types of content at different weights so that the content gets seen more. So for a while, like Instagram was like, we're going all in on reels. Until I think
Yeah.
until I think the Kardashians were like, no, you're not, and then they that's how much power they have. Isn't that gnarly?
Yeah.
Um, they pulled back and, started to serve up more photo content, more static content, more carousel kind of slidey content. So I
Uh-huh.
think people are just intimidated by the overwhelm that is involved with social, the mechanics that are constantly changing, which then cause us to overthink. And then we start to kind of come up with excuses of, am I too old for this? I don't have time for this, you know, but you have to be at some level as a business owner, especially when you're a small business. People buy from other people. So we have to really hone in on that aspect. And you have to be open to partnering with either an agency or a virtual assistant to help you get it done and get it done properly and quickly. And also be able to have the expertise to tell you whether or not something's working or not. And just be transparent about that too. Because that's the biggest thing I talk to clients about is they're like, we get these reports, but I have no idea, like not my clients, but people that are like coming into, we get these reports, but we have no idea what they mean or what they say because the people
Right.
haven't taken the time to tell them.
So what do you think are like maybe the top 3 biggest things that people, business owners or marketing teams or whoever's managing social media, what are the top kind of 3 things that they should really look at when they're coming up with their social media strategy?
I think if looking back to go forward, so what, taking a benchmark of all the numbers, even the vanity ones, what's your followers? How much content are you posting every single week or every single month? And then looking at the performance. Are you creating enough content and the right kind of content? So if you're posting all photos and you maybe posted 3 videos, either short form or long form, depending, and all those 3 videos doubled their engagement than the photos, then maybe you want to do more video, right? And so it's
Right.
looking at that and then balancing the resources. So for example, if I'm posting 5 times a week and I do 2 videos and 3 photos, and those 2 videos are crushing the 3 photos, I might back up to 3 posts a week and do all videos. So you just have to evolve and change your strategy. So I'd say, look at where you're starting from, look at what content is working and not working. And that's something that you can do month over month. I also tell sometimes if you're starting out, do weekly seesaws. I learned this from another agency I used to work at, where you say, okay, what are the top performers, the bottom performers, and why that happened? Because what I've noticed is when you get to the end of the month, you're like, man, that second week of April really just tanked. Why? Oh, there was 3 holidays on one weekend.
Right.
That's why your content didn't perform. Or why is February always a down month? Well, there's 3 less days. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
those things that people just don't think about overarching. And so I look at that. If engagement is something that you're measuring, like you want to have more conversations, more of that awareness, measure engagement, where you're starting from and where you want to go. If you want to drive more traffic, if that's the goal, what is Google Analytics saying currently right now your traffic source is predominantly? And where do you want it to move? So I think it's just looking at all those things and understanding what your goals are, but having that line in the sand of your starting point is going
Mhm.
to be valuable going forward.
Do you have any tips on converting? Like a lot of times we get people who have a social media following converting from a following to that next step. Like, how can you convert these people who are clearly watching you into an action oriented step?
I think it's having the calls to action, going on stories, like if we're thinking about Instagram, giving them opportunities to take action. I
Mm.
think
And
and
different
don't
ones, probably.
yeah, and different ones based on where they are from in their buyer's journey. You know, if they're just discovering you, maybe they need a freebie. If they've been hanging around a while, invite them to your webinar for, 47 bucks or whatever it is. It's just
Mhm.
having different offers at different steps in order to get them to take that bigger high ticket action, whatever that is.
How long do you think it takes to create like a comprehensive strategy like this?
Well, it takes me 4 hours. It could take more upwards of 6 depending on how many platforms. So
Yeah.
2
What
platforms to
what
take
would you recommend for platform numbers too? Like, you know, it's hard. I mean, to be good at
yeah.
all those things, you can't do it. It's
Yeah, it's
I mean,
and
you
I
can
always
do
tell
it.
clients, they're like,
You
"I
can
wanna
do it,
be
but other people.
everywhere." Yeah, I'm like, "Cool. Why?" Like,
Yeah.
and so I'm a big like, I am everywhere because
Yeah.
people expect me to be everywhere. Because one
Sure,
time I
sure.
was
Yeah.
having a call with a client, and they're like, "You haven't posted on your Facebook in, like, 3 months." I'm like, "'Cause I'm busy posting on everyone else's." So and I was like, "Okay, let's learn, like, I'll start being more
Yeah.
active." But I pay more attention to the ones that I know that I have an audience,
Yeah.
or the ones that I know that I can be consistent with because I enjoy being on those platforms and connecting with people. And so
Right.
for me, LinkedIn, hands down, where I do business. Instagram is where I have fun and people can see behind the scenes more. And so it's just
Okay, you
understanding.
have not once mentioned YouTube Shorts, and I am loving YouTube Shorts because that is my I don't know, I am not a big I like TikTok. I like watching TikTok, but I'm not
Yeah.
a big fan of TikTok. It makes me feel old and complicated. And YouTube is just I felt like when they started YouTube Shorts, I was very not sure, but then I was like, this is way for
Yes.
me, way better than TikTok. And so what is your kind of perspective on YouTube Short? And it's also better than like, long form video, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So I am just propping up my YouTube channel. I have one short in there that I think I repurposed from a reel. And it's doing okay. But what I love about YouTube is the search capability. And so I think
Yeah.
people sleep on YouTube just like they sleep on LinkedIn. Like
Yeah.
there is significant power. And I think I woke up to the realization of like, okay, I need to get on YouTube. Is I was sitting at a live event and there was 10 of this woman's students on the stage, and she asked each of them to say, like, "How did you discover me? Like, how did you find me?" And 9 out of 10 of them all said YouTube. I was like, "Well, then,
Yeah.
fire lit under rear will create channel." Like, I just was like,
Yeah.
"I have to do this." So,
Well, and
it's
YouTube
just
doesn't make it complicated. I like well, also they're, integrated with Gmail. So like it's just so easy because they're a Google company, but it's not another platform for you to sign up for. You and TikTok, I always think I felt like it was I mean, I've posted now on TikTok, but like I always felt like it was intimidating because it's like, well, all these people are doing choreographed dances and I'm a dancer and I feel uncomfortable.
yeah.
So if I feel uncomfortable, I feel like this is like a little bit more difficult than
Yeah.
my,
Well, and I'm
not
glad that TikTok has slowly morphed into being like a whatever kind of platform.
entertainment more
Yeah.
focused, yeah.
Entertainment, and I always say people are like, "Should I be on TikTok?" I said, "Well, who's your audience? If your audience is Gen Z, then yes. But if it's
Yeah,
not, then you don't need to." And I would say but at the same time, I also know people like my 71-year-old mother. She'll kill me for saying her age on here. Mom, if you're listening, I'm so sorry. Um, but they're my friends, like older millennials, like they are consuming on the platform. They are not creating.
but I don't even go on the platform. I don't even know how it comes up on I don't even know how I see it sometimes. Oh, because you know what they do? You can repurpose it, right?
Yes.
So that's only I'm seeing the repurposed content on Instagram. So Instagram is a place where I'll go and I feel like I should say my age just for like demographic reasons, but I just don't want to. I'm 40 plus. How about that? I'm in the 40
Love
category.
it.
And Instagram and YouTube is where I like love to consume content. And then, like you said, business wise, LinkedIn.
Yep.
obviously.
Exactly.
But Facebook, I'm like over Facebook. I really hate Facebook. I feel like there's like a lot of weird spam now, and it's become very just messy. And then
Hmm.
TikTok, it's just literally because it's like a different login. Like I just don't even want to log in. Like I just
Yeah. Like not another platform.
right. That was my limit. TikTok, I did Snapchat and then TikTok was my limit. I was like, "Oh no, no, no."
Well, now
I'm
there's
not.
what Threads with Instagram, but they were smart and you didn't need a separate login for Threads, which is like the old school Twitter. It's like the new
I don't know what's happening with that.
the
I stopped
adoption.
tweeting like I don't know
Yeah.
when I stopped tweeting like a year
I
ago.
know. Yeah.
Um and yeah, so I don't even know. So I think anything new from now forth, I'm just going to be that
Like
old
unsubscribe.
yeah,
Unsubscribe.
that old person. But yeah, I mean, I think it's an overwhelming thing, and I think you really have to find
Mhm.
out, like you said, where the audience is, right? Like if you want to hit Gen Z, then go there. If you want to hit the business people, if you want to hit enterprise, you have to go somewhere else. I'm in cannabis as well, and like for cannabis, there's like a LinkedIn for cannabis, so it's like there's a place for everyone. You just have to find the right place. You don't have to be in the place that everyone else is at. And I
And I
think
think
that's
you
something else.
and I think you bring up a really good point in saying, there's separate, almost niche specific communities online for what you want to talk about. And that's been a big trend that I've seen the past like year or two, like even with the development of Discord, right? Like there's
Yeah.
different niches on there where you can engage strictly with people that you are interested in talking to.
Yeah.
And so I think
Well,
people
and
skip on
Discord has
that.
been around for a long time, so that's the funny thing 'cause I worked in video games and
Nice.
so
But it's
so
more to more, right? Like since
now it's like
Mhm.
expanded beyond that. People are realizing, "Oh, well that's how people did video games chatter back then. Now we're adapting it for other reasons." So it's
Yeah.
just very interesting to see a lot of these things emerging. Actually, a lot of things I feel like emerged from the video game space too, even like virtual worlds or like social platforms. Like everything's kind
Very
of coming full
true.
circle.
Very true. I love that parallel.
Yeah. No, I mean, I used to work for a company called Electric Sheep Company. They made Second Life back in like 2007, I think. And that was like the first virtual world where like you go in and it was almost like Sims. It was like a world of Sims almost.
Cool.
But it was like people were like companies and brands and things like that were buying into it. And I think eventually it did not reach its potential. But now you're seeing things like that come back where, with like even with blockchain and NFTs and like there's always like these versions of what used to exist. They're becoming like transformed into something new.
Yeah. I mean, it's
It's
just
really
like the fashion cycle, right? Everything
yeah.
old is like the 90s are back, right?
Right, it's all coming back. Absolutely. Well, I feel like there's just so much to cover in social media, and I
Wow.
diverted you from giving us the basics. But I think we covered some really interesting topics
Absolutely.
today. And so I'd love to come back and talk a little bit more about like real like putting together strategy, mapping out content, and really talking about that. But for today, let's kind of wrap it up and let's tell people where to find you.
Absolutely. You can find me at osnapsocial.com / resources. There's a ton of freebies over there. You can hang out with me on Instagram, osnapsocialcarlin, Karlyn. And, come find me on LinkedIn,
Okay,
Carlin
we'll put
Ankrum.
your info in our little show
Cool.
notes here. Any like last tip, valuable tip you'd like to leave everybody off with?
Oh, man. There's so many, but my
A
biggest
gem.
one,
Give us a gem. Give us
the
a social media
gems.
gem.
Oh, man. Social media is supposed to be fun. Just remember that. Looking for what you have, and they're
Yeah,
seeking solutions that you offer, but they won't know that you exist until you step out and show them what you have. So
right.
share your brilliance, everybody.
All right. Awesome. Thank you, Carlin. Thank you so much for your time.
You.
Um, you guys hang tight for a follow-up conversation with Carlin. And everyone have an awesome day. Listen, I'll talk to you next time.
Thank you.